So I wanted to talk a little bit about fear and anxiety, which, interestingly enough, present themselves in very similar ways in the body. Um, Having struggled with anxiety at different parts of my life, I had to learn how to distinguish between the two, and I can tell you it's really hard because they both kind of present themselves the same way in the body, and anxiety mimics certain things. So when you feel fear, your body kind of gets tense, constricted. Um, your circulation moves from your outer extremities to your internal organs. Basically, your body gets ready to act. You know, whether you're going to fight, whether you're going to run, fight or flight, it's called, right? And your limbic system is activated, which is basically one of the oldest systems in our brain, and it's responsible for, survival. So normally, when operating in a constructive and normal way, your fear it's a really healthy signal. It's a signal to your body that there's danger or you need to act immediately. So something is threatening you, or there's a situation you have to get out of. I don't know, you're about to be in the middle of a fire, you're about to be in the middle of a fight, you're about to get caught in rapids, in a river, animals about to attack you, whatever, right? So it's developed in a way so that our body optimizes its energy and its physiology so that you can best operate, right? Now, what happens to human beings when they have PTSD? Or, they have wounds or traumas, and there's pain that hijacks some of our systems. So people with PTSD or heavy trauma will go into their adult life, and that trigger, like on the limbic system, that something's wrong, I'm in danger, I'm not safe. It's kind of like trigger happy, for lack of a better word. And what's really interesting is anxiety will reproduce all the same symptoms. So you get this kind of like constriction in your chest, rapid breathing, like you can't feel like you can get your breath. And what happens when you're afraid or really anxious is your field of thought narrows. So it's like the only thing that's available is like a few options. So what you'll notice when people are afraid or when people are anxious, they're not calmly considering kind of lateral thinking. They're not thinking of a lot of options. They're just kind of like, go. Okay, which one of these two options? It's like a 0-1, 0-1, 0-1 situation where it's like yes or no, left or right, really simple functional choices. Unfortunately, let's say someone's carrying a lot of trauma, it's going to make them experience the world as threatening, based on the fact that it was really, really threatening at some point and hurt them, right? It doesn't come out of nowhere. So our brain is this learning machine, but when there's really heavy traumas, let's say, our brain says, okay, well, situation X, Y, and Z are dangerous. We have to get the hell away from them as fast as possible, right? Or fight people because they're going to be dangerous in this situation. So, our brain's constantly filtering information, right? And unfortunately, let's say something has similarities to those scenarios when the trauma happened, the brain's like, oh, this might be that, right? So the limbic system kicks into gear, and unfortunately, it's not a reasonable part of our biology. So when people are in this alert stage or in this hyper threatened state, it's hard to calm them down. It's hard to reason with them. It's hard for these people to operate in a way that is kind of like easy to function. Like consider new perspectives or deal with uncertainty or deal with the unknown. All these things it's almost impossible from that state. So if someone's really anxious, or if someone has a lot of fear, don't expect them to behave like in a way someone who just spent an hour meditating, or someone who just came out of a spa, or someone who's really relaxed, because that's not what system's at play. And unfortunately, some of the things that anxiety mimics, for example, it mimics having a heart attack. And I was at a lunch almost 10 years ago with someone who was telling us about different pains they were having in their chest and their arm, and this tension, and it made them feel really nervous and anxious. And I left the lunch and I said, I think they're having a heart attack. No, that's not true. Sorry. I said, I think they're having an anxiety attack, or they were having an anxiety attack, because I've gone through all those sensations. And sadly, it was closer to a heart attack. And that person had a heart attack very soon after. And it struck so deeply in me, the similarity between the two things, and how difficult it is for people having anxiety attacks and panic attacks to realize they're not dying. And there's very few signs. Like, one of the things that I read once was that when it's anxiety, you think something's going to happen, you feel something's going to happen, you fear it is. And when it's kind of like your intuition or your gut, there's like a certainty to it. Because when your intuition usually is bang on, and anxiety, it has more of a shaky track record. And so, anyways, without going too far into this, both of these things affect you and your ability to reason and your ability to act. And fear on its own, in its just normal nature, it's a really healthy, useful feeling. It's there for a reason. The problem is when our pain, our suffering, our trauma starts hijacking the system, and we start getting signs and symptoms that seem like fear, and they are fear-based, but it's not kind of like this like gut biological fear. It's like a synthetic one. But if someone's having a panic attack, good luck telling them it's not real, or not that it's not real, but that they're not dying, or that it's going to end. When I had really bad anxiety, this was like a good almost 15 years ago, 13 years ago. At one point, I printed something out on a paper that said, "This is going to end. This won't be forever." And I put it up in a couple of different places because, I was just so unreasonable about that. I just wasn't able to realize that it had an end. And the moment that I let go into it, it just takes so much courage. And you're just going right into the storm. But in the times that I was able to let go and just be like, okay, it would dissipate immediately, because the fuel for it was my fear. And so the fear bubbled into this kind of monster, and the more I was afraid and the more I was apprehensive, the bigger it got. Whether it was some sort of social anxiety or fear about a situation, or some sort of biological thing, maybe something's wrong with my heart, maybe something's wrong with my stomach, maybe I have this, maybe I have that, and it became neurosis. Anyways, all that to say, I've been rambling a little bit more on this one than usual. When people are navigating fear, you have to have a lot of compassion. They may or may not be reasonable, probably not. It may be very justified, and even if it isn't really justified and it's kind of going on, let's say what you would say, in their head, you have to have even more compassion, because you have no idea how hard it is for someone with neurosis or anxiety or depression to just get to zero and deal with you or interact with you or interact with the world. You have no idea how much effort goes into just showing up for people going through these things. To be able to just be in a normal situation, it's torturous. And so if I could say one thing, I'd say have a lot of compassion with someone who's going through stuff. Have a lot of compassion with yourself. And when you're afraid, try your best to kind of, breathe and see, is this real or not? Like, is this justified or not? Do I have to get the hell out of here? Or am I just nervous? Or am I just anxious? And another thing, last thing, is anxiety is really interesting because it's very similar also to excitement. And people who have a lot of anxiety start mistaking excitement for anxiety because they both feel almost exactly the same way. Butterflies in your stomach, you get a little bit sweaty, your heart rate goes up, you're like, you are literally excited about what's about to happen. Just that when it's anxiety, it's more suffering. And when you're really excited, it's more hope and kind of like anticipation. All right, hope you're having a good day. Ciao.